A guy dies and gets reincarnated into the body of Su Ping. In this new world he finds himself in, pets are used as battle beasts in all sorts of situations. Think Pokemon, but with R-rated levels of violence. Last time we saw him, Su Ping made tsunami-level waves at the Heavenly Dragon Academy. After obliterating corrupt instructors, proving his superiority in a beast duel against the Academy's principal, the legendary beast tamer sent shockwaves through the beast instructors' conference by announcing his plan to share a groundbreaking training technique for free. His protege, Zhang, didn't fall far behind, dazzling the crowd with her revival of a mythical dragon bloodline and solidifying her unwavering loyalty to Su Ping. But not all attention is welcome. Reports of mysterious energy crystals from a newly discovered starry sky rift created through human lies have brought calamity, along with strange, monstrous creatures and a sinister migration pattern that has already devastated several base cities. Worse still, the beast tide has arrived at Longjiang, Su Ping's home, led by Transcendence Void himself. Now the bastardly villain and our hero face off at last. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the front lines, Xu Kuang and the mayor of Longjiang base city, Shi Jinshui, observe as a beast king charges across the field. Jinshui identifies the beast as a titan elephant from the C-tier lineage, rumored to have the strength to flatten mountains. Almost as if to respond to the mayor's words, the elephant proceeds to ram its way through the anti-monster landmines surrounding the city, completely tanking all the damage. A feat that forces Su Kuang's premature celebration to switch over to frustration. Hopefully, that's the only thing he does prematurely. Jin Shui comments on how this explains why the Transcendence Void would send a single Beast King as his vanguard, knowing the titanic level of defense and size the elephant possesses. However, that's not where their misfortune ends. Rather than just being used to clear the landmine, the elephant is now charging straight toward the city walls, picking up speed as it barrels forward, intent on ramming right through them. Luckily for everyone involved, Su Ping decides it's time to cut in and summons forth one of his own logic-defyingly overpowered beasts. Zooming on the portal created by his master, Blaziken erupts onto the scene and stops the elephant in its tracks with a mighty tackle. Bro sounds like he should be in the NFL. As Blaziken grapples with the elephant's defensive field, it doesn't take long to shatter the whole thing and grab onto the Beast King's tusks directly. Just like that, the dragon lets loose an energy roar of epic proportions point blank into the elephant's skull. Reeling from the attack, the elephant is revealed to have all the flesh on the side of its skull scorched right off, leaving it in a completely beaten state. Observing from their spot on the walls, Xu Kuang and Jin Shui are amazed, the former being far more vocal and cockier in his celebration. Yeah, he's definitely going to jinx this at some point. As the two discuss Su Ping's Blaziken, Jin Shui learns of how Su Ping advanced it by merging the beast with a long-extinct dragon bloodline, explaining its otherworldly power. Right as Jin Shui says this, Blaziken lets loose yet another earth-shattering roar, shooting an energy beam at two more Beast Kings called forth by Transcendence Void. Despite his earlier statement, Jin Shui and Xu Kuang are both utterly floored by Blaziken's ability to match two Beast Kings at the same time. Unfortunately for them, that's not even the beginning of what they now face. As they gaze into the distance, they see a terrifying sight. Not 2, not 3, not even 5, but 10 Beast Kings marching their way. More than double the number initially reported to them. Up above, Transcendence Void smirks at the panic he can see rising, all while commenting on how he's eager to see how this human-bred dragon matches up to proper Beast Kings. With that said, Transcendence Void sends forth the first of his Beast Kings, a humongous hulking bipedal beast known as a Crimson Soul Flame Ape. Ranked fourth among all fire-type beasts, the overgrown monkey is a force to be reckoned with as the flames from its body expand outwards, consuming all in their path. From their perch on the city walls, Xu Kuang and Jin Shui watch in awe of the ape's apocalyptic fire. Xu Kuang even comments on how this fire seems to have a 1,000-mile radius instead of its usual 100. Hang on, that has to be a mistranslation, right? Warded out monkey aside, what Jin Shui is perhaps even more stunned by is Blaziken's ability to withstand the apocalyptic true fire. Hearing this, Xu Kuang can only chuckle, revealing to him that Blaziken may seem like an offensive beast from how he took down that elephant. However, in reality, the dragon's true specialty is in fact defense. Right as those words leave Xu Kuang's lips, Blaziken activates the divine skill, Holy Iron Wall, shielding not only itself but also all of Longjiang City from the apocalyptic flame. Even Transcendence Void is unable to keep the surprise completely off his face, shocked to see a skill that even he doesn't recognize. Bro's basically been living under a rock forever. Kinda makes sense. While Jin Shui marvels at Blaziken's power and Su Ping's unbelievable skill, Stu Kuang's cockiness has him stating that Transcendence Void must be really behind the times. The hell, dude just stole my joke. Contrary to the hopeful expressions of those two, Suping himself wears a weary countenance, asking the others if they don't find anything strange about this scenario. In response to their puzzled looks, he brings up how the Titan Elephant cleared a clear, safe path through their minefield for the invading forces to take. And yet, this whole time, Transcendence Void has only been sending forward one beast at a time for solo challenges. Unlike what you'd expect from his usual demeanor, Stu Kuang is quick to pick up what his master is implying. For one, Transcendence Void's main forces seem to have vanished in the chaos, leaving only a dense mass of beasts right below the city. Next to him, Jin Shui starts putting the pieces together as well, coming to a terrifying conclusion. Transcendence Void has tricked them into pulling all the elites from the 11 nearby base cities to protect Longjiang, leaving those others almost entirely defenseless. This whole time, those cities were Transcendence Void's true target. Sure enough, distress calls start coming in within moments of all 11 base cities, reporting massive enemy forces advancing on them. Up above, Transcendence Void's cocky demeanor returns as he condescendingly asks the humans if they only now realized his plan. Just as Jin Shui sinks to his knees in despair, believing all to be lost, two sets of feet walk past him, calm and composed, not an ounce of worry in their gait. Old Man Zhu and Kitten Duwang. The two report directly to Suping, stating that the preparations he ordered have all been made. That's right, fools, Suping is always 2 steps ahead. Over on the second battlefront around each of the 11 base cities, bombs rain down from the skies above, utterly devastating the recruited forces of Transcendence Void. As the enemy forces hastily attempt to retreat, vessels come crashing down from starry skies near orbit Space C. Within moments, the enemy finds themselves surrounded, outmatched, outgunned, and outplayed as humanity's forces march out of these vessels, ready to lay these fools out. Back at Longjiang's wall, Jin Shui starts glazing the crap out of Suping. Once he realizes that the legendary beast tamer saw through Transcendence Void from the beginning and was just playing along to buy time. Finally, allowing himself to display some confidence, Suping grins up at Transcendence Void and asks what his next move is. Unable to handle such a thorough strategic spanking, Transcendence Void sends out an order to all his forces. All beast clans under him are to refocus on one single goal: raise Longjiang to the ground. Man, talk about a sore loser. Moving away from the main battlefields for a moment, we're given a glimpse into what goes on behind the scenes of the massive fights. Deep underground, the support forces for Longjiang City's defenses travel through the logistics transport deep rail train, carrying supplies for the fighters. As they travel, the crew is utterly baffled by how explosive the battle above ground must be for them to be feeling the tremors even down here. Cracks begin appearing in the walls, the earth around them quakes violently, and the crew starts panicking as one man hysterically declares that they're all doomed. Do read the room. Freaking hell. Luckily, the leader of the support forces maintains a level head and quickly belts out a speech chock full of charisma about how their only focus right now is doing their job and supplying their defense forces. Who's winning or losing is something that comes afterward. Emboldened by the man's iron will, the crew regain their footing and march off, placing their faith in Suping and his allies to protect them. Up above the surface, the battle seems to be at a stalemate. While Blaziken and the Crimson Soul Flame Ape lock proverbial horns and hold each other off, the human defensive forces blast the tar out of all the enemy mobs with their mini-gun-equipped sentries. Unfortunately for one of the gunners, a weapon that hardcore needs some cooldown time, which is when one of the beasts leaps all the way above the wall and prepares to sink its fangs into his defenseless throat. Luckily for the gunner, he's saved at the last moment by the appearance of Longjiang Elite Guard's Right Commander Qin Duguang. Daddy, sorry. Daddy, sorry. Daddy, ahem. After warning the gunner about staying on guard since these beasts have been enhanced by Transcendence Void, Duguang notices something strange out of the corner of his eye. Well, other than the dude being munched on, what truly catches his attention is a strange, flame-hued growth on the chests of the mob beasts. As far as he can tell, that thing is an unstable core. Right as he realizes this, Duguang is forced to grab the nearest soldier and leap away as the beast's core explodes in a violent blaze. Mind racing at a mile a minute, Duguang yells out a warning for Suping. Transcendence Void is planning to use these unstable mobs to blow up their walls and cannons. Kamikaze tactics? Dude's really desperate now. Standing right next to Suping, Old Man Zhu asks the prodigy if he can take care of this. Upon receiving a nod from his boss, Zhu issues orders to the Elite Guard to set up the formation. In mere moments, the Elite Guard has summoned forth a gargantuan spectral jade dragon, a massive blade clutched in its jaws. Without giving the enemy a moment to register this development, the Jade Dragon swings its weapon across the field, instantly slashing apart a large portion of the mobs. At the same moment, the Crimson Soul Flame Ape's decapitated head crashes to the ground, triggering yet another premature celebration from Xuquang and Jinshui. Why is it premature? Well, the moment the Flame Ape's body goes crashing down, a massive chasm opens in the earth, swallowing up the bodies of all the fallen beasts. Not only that, but immediately after, a kaiju-sized crimson tentacle erupts from the chasm, shortly joined by several more sprouting out of the ground around it. Up on the wall, not a single person is less than baffled by this development. That is, of course, except Suping, who simply gazes upon the new creature, intrigued by its appearance. Meanwhile, over on the second battlefront at the other 11 base cities, the tentacle beast has sprouted out of the earth there as well. As the massive appendage rears back and slams down to crush the defense forces into blood spatters, the followers of Transcendence Void take a page out of Xuquang's book and start prematurely celebrating. Believing their incredible master to have done this to save them, they glaze the crap out of Transcendence Void and plead with him to not only free them from their binds, but even grant them more power. For Christ's sake. Can these guys get any dumber? He's not messing with y'all like that lil pro. Sure enough, the second Transcendence Void's tentacle monster is done sucking all the human forces dry and extracting their life force in crystal form. It turns on the very idiots who were celebrating a moment ago. By the time the morons realize what's about to happen, it's already too late to escape, not that they could have even if they were unshackled. Within seconds, the tentacle beast has given them the same fate as everyone else on this battlefield, and they die screaming bloody murder at their supposed master. Good riddance. This is a textbook example of natural selection. Back on the primary battlefield with the big dogs, Suping can sense the immense amount of power flowing into Transcendence Void via the tentacles slithering into his robes. Yo, this dude a freak. Worried for his pet's safety, Suping immediately calls for Blaziken to return to him, but the command is already too late. Before Blaziken can get anywhere near Suping, the tentacles grab onto him, coiling around the dragon's legs and throat. Down below, Old Man Joe sends forth Jade Dragon without missing a beat, determined to support Suping however he can. Unfortunately for them, even the Jade Dragon is powerless against the souped-up tentacle beast, its blade barely even managing to cut into the thing's flesh. Faster than anyone can realize what's happened, Suping in his full fusion form with Skelly has appeared at Blaziken's side, swinging his own blade into the tentacles. Despite the incredible wave of power emitted from the swing, however, even Suping's blade only just manages to cut into a little bit of the beast's flesh. Even this little bit is enough to worry Transcendence Void, however, and he sends forth dozens more tentacles to push Suping back. From his spot on the wall, Jinshui worriedly yells out for Suping to watch out, unaware that the Giga Chad already has a plan. With one perfect slash let loose at the perfect moment, Suping manages to free Blaziken right before the other tentacles reach them, and he's able to flee back toward the walls at full speed. Old Man Zhu tries to assist his retreat with the Jade Dragon, but is only given a mouthful of the blade in return as the tentacles utterly decimate his avatar. Between the instant destruction of their ultimate defense, the devastation of their ground forces, and the flames that threaten to consume them all, Jinshui begins to feel that all is lost. Unknown to him, Suping's gamble has just paid off. Riding atop Blaziken, he's just re-entered the area that's counted as part of his pet store. And in case anyone's forgotten, Suping is basically God in that space. With a simple raise of his palm, he flattens the tentacles coming his way and tells a confused Transcendence Void that it's time. Menacing skeletal grin in place, he only speaks 6 more words to the enemy. His harbinger of death has arrived. God, that goes so damn hard. Transcendence Void, on the other hand, does not share my opinion on that line and gets triggered as all hell. With the sudden upheaval of the earth itself, the tentacles sprouting from his robe come together and combine to reveal the true form of the terrible creature that has devastated the secondary battlefront. It's a Titan. Wait, no. Damn it, wrong anime again. As it turns out, those aren't tentacles as much as they are muscle fibers. Each and every one of them is just one tiny strand of what now stands as a gargantuan monster capable of leveling a city simply by stepping on it. Down below, Xuquang and Jinshui's emotions have been on a roller coaster for a while, and they're in one of the lows now, utterly horrified. Watching the reactions to his reveal, Transcendence Void condescendingly asks Suping if he still dares to claim his death is near. In response, Suping decides to whip his entire meat out and lay it on the table. Okay, that sounded sus. But anyway, not only does he defuse with Skelly, but he tells Transcendence Void to go ahead and take his best shot if he doesn't believe Suping. Off to the side, Jinshui is absolutely flabbergasted by Suping's actions, wondering what kind of insane bluff this is. Believing this to be a bluff or empty bravado as well, Transcendence Void doesn't hesitate for a moment and brings his meat mech's foot crashing down on Longjiang City with insane speed. Just like that, all hope is lost in Jin Shui's mind as the foot lands, the earth cracks, and the impact spreads for miles outside Longjiang. Only, the instant death he was convinced of never arrives. Tilting their gazes upwards in confusion, Shou Kuang and Jin Shui bear witness to a sight they never even considered a possibility. Su Ping is floating in the air right above the city, holding back the titanic monster's foot with his bare hands. Confident as ever, the legendary beast tamer asks why they're so surprised when all he's doing is holding back some measly vines. The disrespect is crazy. Beyond frustrated by this point, Transcendence Void has the monster's arms fused with its leg to push down even harder. However, Su Ping doesn't budge even an inch. With a cocky smirk on his face, the man pushes back with a single use of his divine demonic fist, and just like that, the beast's limbs are blown into oblivion. All Transcendence Void can do is gape in disbelief at what has just happened. As his beast collapses, Su Ping lunges towards him, fist glowing with barely contained power. Within another half second, Su Ping is left alone in the air, punch thrown, foe vanquished, and the sky clearing up as the sheer air pressure blows away the darkness. All of Longjiang's defense forces are in awe, from Xu Kuang and Jin Shui to Bai and all the other no-name mooks. Transcendence Void is dead. However, right amid the celebration, as Su Ping fires some banter back and forth with his student, a voice speaks directly into his mind, shooting a spark of terror through his very being. Instantly collecting himself, Su Ping angrily calls out to the voice, asking if it's Transcendence Void. But, in yet another unexpected twist, it seems Su Ping is the only one who can hear the voice, everyone else being fully confused by what he's saying. At that moment, Jonah is the one who steps forward with an answer for her boss. You won't be able to find Transcendence Void because it was never here in the first place. Bro thinks he's Nagato. Get out of here. More than a little puzzled by Anna's words, Su Ping tells her that's impossible since he just heard the being's voice. Besides, the spine-chilling apprehension he felt just now isn't something that could ever lie to him. It felt as if someone was glaring at him like nothing more than prey. Instantly zooming down to the ground, Su Ping asks Anna to explain exactly what she means. To answer his question, she asks him another. What is the difference between him and Transcendence Void? Seeing Su Ping's inability to answer the question sufficiently, she throws him a bone, and specifically asks him the difference between the cultivation of a sky tier and everything that's below it. Thrown for a loop, Su Ping can only come up with an obvious answer, such as the sky tier being stronger, faster, older, and tentacle-ear than him. At that point, even Anna can't hold back an amused chortle, telling him it's no wonder that a mere ant's perception of a titan truly is interesting. If I didn't know better, I'd say she's mocking him. I do not know better. She is. Seeing Su Ping's frustration, Anna reveals the true difference is that all sky tiers control a certain law. Trying to make sense of this, Su Ping asks her if she's referring to something like his lightning Dao, but she tells the human his level with the lightning is nowhere near the control that sky tiers possess. To put it in perspective, he's just in the qualifiers and Transcendence Void is already a 5-time champion. With full control of the space law, Transcendence Void can't be found by anyone. Suddenly, the feeling of being watched disappears from Su Ping's senses, and he realizes Transcendence Void is backing off since Anna can see through his law. That aside though, Anna's revelation brings Su Ping to a terrible conclusion. The Transcendence Void he fought just now was nothing but a fake, and the real one has been hiding in its space law this whole time. Seeing how deflated Su Ping is with this knowledge, Anna informs him that while the titanic fake was in fact a fake, a power it absorbed from the battlefields is very much real and stored within its corpse. Without wasting any time, Su Ping puts his beast to work digging a path into the tentacle giant's body to find the supposed reserves of power. Something which doesn't take long, as the moment he descends into the corpse with Skelly, he comes face to face with a veritable ocean of energy crystals. Utterly shocked by the sheer volume, Su Ping asks Jin Shui over his comms just how many people this damn thing absorbed. When he learns that not only their warriors but even the underground support staff, their equipment, and their crew were all absorbed, Su Ping then asks if the crystals can be reverted to the people they were harvested from. Unfortunately, the grim situation is an inescapable one, as Bai informs him the deceased are already long gone. The most they can do now is ensure the ones who sacrificed themselves didn't do so in vain. Dang. Alright, Commander Irwin, spit yo shi. Qian Duhuang is the first to address Su Ping, requesting that he give his orders regarding the crystals as it's dangerous to stay in the barren region where they are any longer. Old Man Zhou pipes up as well, assuring him that as the one who beat Transcendence Void, nobody will question his decision. For his part, Su Ping lifts one of the crystals at his feet and clutches it tight as he makes his choice. The sacrifices made today will not be in vain. They shall become his strength and fight alongside him to defeat Transcendence Void, once and for all. After the events of the big day, new opportunities arise for many, as people are contracted from far and wide to harvest the remains of the beasts slain in the battle and clear the area. While some are ecstatic over the chance to harvest to their heart's content, some, such as this poor sap, are entrenched in despair over all the lives lost. After all, if a single beast tide did all of this, who's to say they'll even survive what's to come? Luckily, Qin Du Wang appears right before the despondent man, ready to boost everyone's morale tenfold. Though he admits they've lost much in this battle, he tells them to keep the most important thing in mind. Ultimately, they go on. They did survive the beast tide and they protected their homes and families. Not only that, Suping alone managed to force Transcendence Void into retreat, all on his own, with him as their leader and protector. There's nothing to fear. All they need is to do their best to raise their strength and fortify their walls, so that when the next tide comes, there will be no mercy for the enemy. Bro got kinda lost in the sauce there. Good for them, though. Meanwhile, off in the distance, Old Man Zhao witnesses the crowd chanting with a pensive expression. As all of this is occurring, the man being celebrated himself is busy in his own realm, the Pet Beast Battle Room. While examining all the energy crystals they've retrieved, Suping ponders on how Transcendence Void's goal was to occupy all the base cities where his stores are located, all to occupy them and absorb the resources they produce. More importantly, he laments his miscalculation and the lost opportunity to end Transcendence Void, as he wanted to use his invincibility in his own domain as his secret finishing trump card. But now he's revealed his secret, only to defeat a fake of all things. He has to wonder, though, if Transcendence Void's fake was capable of leveling the city all along like it tried at the end. Why didn't he just do that from the start? It's through this line of questioning and thought that Suping reaches a conclusion that could spell the difference between humanity's victory and defeat. Based on what Bai has told him, humanity's great emperor in the past sacrificed his life and astral power to seal the Abyss entrance. If that seal is still in place, Transcendence Void must have suffered greatly to force himself through, and his consumption of life forms on Earth was to recover. And if all of that holds true, that means Transcendence Void doesn't need these crystals as food, but as resources to fix itself. With the loss of all these crystals from his fake body, the Sky-tier entity must now be in a weakened state. Without another moment's hesitation, Suping gets started absorbing the energy from the crystals, determined to gain the strength to finish his foe for good. It's not long after that Suping breaks through to the Sea Realm's limit, granting him a fundamental skill of the space law, Eye of God. With his new breakthrough in skill, not only does Suping feel stronger than ever, but he can now perceive things at such high speeds that even higher-tier beings shouldn't be able to ambush him. Considering how this insane skill is only a basic ability of the space law, Suping can only marvel at how right Anna was to call him an ant in comparison to the true Sky tier. Just then, Old Man Zhu and Ryu and Tang step through the door to Suping's realm. After congratulating him on his breakthrough, they have a conversation about the loss of more than half their forces in this last battle and the need to replenish them. Surprisingly, it's Ru'an who speaks up to tell Suping of several old families in the fallen base cities who are still fighting Transcendence Void's rebel army to this day. Upon her suggestion to save and recruit those families, Suping admits it's a good idea, but he can't help but wonder why she's so outspoken on the matter. That's when Ru'an admits her true motivation. Her family, the Tang clan, is one of those under siege. Because of their pre-existing rivalry over influence and land, the Saitu and Wang families have banded together under Transcendence Void's banner and are attempting to devour the Tang in their entirety. In a shocking display of desperation and humility, Ryu and Tang falls to her knees and begs Suping to let her go home and fight for her family. Man, that got dark pretty fast. Talk about a vibe killer. Too soon? Seeing the proud and arrogant woman he's come to know sacrificing her dignity in such a manner rubs Suping the wrong way, and he can't help but be sympathetic to her cause. However, he has to ask her, what exactly does she think she can do against Wang and Situ when she's not even a titled beast tamer? Recognizing the truth in his words, Ru'an tells him that even if she can't save her family, she has to at least get her out of there. Oh great, the pronoun game. Just use a freaking name for Christ's sake. With the realization that Ru'an is looking to save a specific person, he tells her she can just give him their name and location since he had the same idea as her. Why would she risk her own life for this when she doesn't need to? In response, Ru'an just looks to the side with a pout and tells him that'd be like escaping one evil just to fall in the clutches of another, namely his. What is Sis on about? She's already basically his slave. Naturally, Suping breaks out in laughter at her admission and tells her they don't have to talk about it, before calling his student Zhang the convo and asking her about her progress on the bound contract. Now what the hell is that supposed to be? Longjiang informs him that it's going well and will be completed in about 5 months. With their resources and manpower, Suping needs it done faster. Latching onto her statement about the resources and manpower, Suping decides to get her a ton more of those and rings good old Elder Bai. As he has a conversation with the geezer who is in the middle of a meeting, all the other officials at the table start praising Suping's talent and achievements. That is until they realize that he's just asked Bai to lend him the world's best scientific equipment and personnel for a whole month. After momentarily being petrified by shock, the lot of them break out in angered protest over the ridiculous demand, overloading the call with yelling and chaos, rather than dealing with the consequences of his own unexplained action. Suping hangs up on them and tells Zhang to just do her best with the stuff he's about to send her. With the call over, Ru'an speaks up and asks Suping what exactly the plan is for her situation, rather than returning to his previous sympathetic disposition. Suping glances at her coldly and tells her she'll be lucky to even get to the battle alive in her current state. No, first they have to get her powered up. And Master and freshly minted student enter, Suping's nurturing plane for an 8-day training session, amounting to a mere hour outside. Here, Suping tells Ru'an that they're in an illusionary dimension of his creation and her goal is to survive. As if to spite him, or perhaps to show her the severity of the situation, a hulking beast appears behind Ru'an just then and slices her torso clean off her lower body. Yeah, have a heart in the morning. Taking a seat on a tall rock formation, Suping brings up the cistern window to revive Ru'an. As the girl slowly comes back to consciousness in utter confusion over her death, Suping reminds her that this is an illusion. If she wants to save someone for real, she has to be able to survive this level of danger at least. Once she's given that info, Ru'an swiftly evades the beast's next attack and gets into her battle stance. One way or another, she will get through this. As Ru'an Tang's training begins, we're given a sneak peek into the life she led as a child, play-fighting pretend enemies even back then, determined to be a warrior. Meanwhile, her little sister, Yor, was more focused on calmer forms of playing, like with dolls or learning first aid. Huh. Well, that's new. Kids these days, man. As Yor treats her big sister's scraped knee, she hugs Ru'an and promises to always take care of everyone in the Tang family. A sentiment that can only make her sister smile and feel the same way. Back to the present, Ru'an Tang stands before multiple beasts, bloodied and exhausted but far from broken. As the wolves come her way, she takes to the air, dodging them perfectly and twisting to land on one's back. After jabbing her weapon into the wolf's flesh, she's assaulted by a projectile hail from the second beast, forcing her to activate her stillness of the Vajra defense technique. Despite some of the shards making it through and injuring her further, Ru'an doesn't falter, tightening her grip on her dagger and driving it deeper in, bringing the first wolf to a sudden collapse. As the enraged princess steps off the now corpse, a simple glare full of malice is enough to raise the hackles of the second wolf, which tries to be a hasty retreat. Ru'an is having none of that though and tosses her makeshift dagger into its hind leg, forcing it to crash. Mere moments later, she's on top of the beast, dagger driven into its throat. Please, nobody let Peeta see this. As the view of the battlefield zooms out above, it's revealed these wolves are just the latest in a huge series of beasts Suping has thrown at her. The man himself is rather impressed, having expected her to be rusty after spending so long as a store worker. Instead, it would seem she never slacked off on keeping up her fighting ability even a little, and now she's even capable of beating 9th tiers thanks to his death training. Impressed with her progress and tenacity, Suping decides to give her the last push she needs and summons a fruit from the astral tree. As he allows it to flow into the girl and act as a catalyst for her breakthrough to 9th tier herself, the unconscious Ru'an whimpers her sister's name, still worried about her. All that matters to her right now is getting home and saving that girl. By the time Ru'an finally comes back to the waking world, Suping has brought them out of the training realm and boarded Blaziken. The bewildered Ru'an asks him how long she was out, to which he tells her it hasn't been long at all and to sit still. He stresses that they're not in the illusionary realm anymore, so any damage she takes here can't just be waved away by getting a second life. Not caring for such details at the moment, Ru'an asks Suping just where they are, to which he informs her that they just departed Longjiang and are heading to her home. Hesitant at first, Ru'an tells him which city they need to go to, NightFire-based city. While she gives him directions, Suping pulls out a golden scroll and in turn, pulls out a sword possessing an incredible aura from said scroll. Because screw physics. Am I right, folks? Just as fast as he brought it out, Suping shoves the sword at Ru'an, telling her that he can't just send her into the crucible empty-handed. To Ru'an Tang's utter amazement, the blade is so insanely sharp that simply touching it bypasses her stillness of the Vajra completely and inflicts a small cut. For it to be able to cut straight through the technique she's honed so much, she can only imagine this thing is the same level of legendary tier treasure as her uncle's famed sea god hunting umbrella. Thrown off by how valuable this single blade is and Suping just handing it off to her, she goes to ask him if he's sure about this. The all-around good guy that he is, Suping loudly tells her that it's just a loan, and he expects the ancient treasure he got from the great Yan True Dragon King back as soon as she's done saving her family. That's nice, I suppose. Suping doesn't stop there though, determined to ensure Ru'an's success today. He summons forth Skelly and has his most powerful companion hide within Ru'an's shadow, allowing him to stay with her at all times as a trump card if she gets overwhelmed. And definitely not just to keep his sword safe. Beyond surprised by how helpful Suping is being, Ru'an can't help but ask if he's for real, having thought that he hates her family. To that, Suping tells her he just never agreed with their survival of the fittest ideology. But now, with a common enemy, he doesn't think it's time for that kind of infighting. No, they need to unite every capable fighter possible under the banner of humanity right now. Having heard that, Ru'an goes into a contemplative mood, at least for a couple of seconds, and then she gets shoved right off Blaziken by her benefactor, who says to travel the rest of the way on her own while he goes to save another city. Free-falling to her demise, Ru'an screams about not having a flying pet, which prompts Suping to give her a hint on how to fly using astral power. Sure enough, when his newest student focuses on his words and applies them, she suddenly finds herself floating midair, a golden aura surrounding her. With this, the aerial mastery, which is a sign of being a 9th tier, Ru'an can't help but shed a tear at how far she's come. Turning her gaze towards Blaziken's form, she vows to never forget this favor. Meanwhile, over in NightFire-based city, crap has hit the fan in all kinds of ways. Beasts from the Wang and Sidu families are raging through the city, destroying all in their path without exception, while the defensive forces take cover. Not all is lost just yet, however, as a warrior shoots a blast straight through several of the beasts and stands tall to protect his home. This is Tang Linzhen, the head of the Tang family. On his order, the man's forces unleash a large-scale attack, but the enemy is prepared. Standing atop a panther beast, the heads of the Saitu and Wang families mock Linzhen and his exhausted power, all while bragging about their own legendary tier treasure. As he lays eyes on what they're talking about, Linzhen's peepers widen, shocked by what he's seeing. Up in the sky above NightFire City, Ru'an has finally arrived only to see a massive explosion right at the city's center. And with the shockwaves reaching all the way to her location, she can only wonder what could cause such a thing. Oh, you'll see, sis. Back down on the battlefield, the treasure brought by the Saitu and Wang heads activates, creating a sickly, death-emitting aura that sucks the very astral power and life essence out of everyone on the field. Linzhen is one of the only ones who managed to stay on their feet, though it's not easy even for him. Despite it being used against him right now, Linzhen can't help but be both amazed and disgusted by this overpowered artifact. After all, that's a legendary evil artifact created through the sacrifice of thousands of lives. The soul-devouring bell. Bit on the nose with that name, but alrighty. As the Saitu android forces dominate the Tang family, who are now crippled by the bell, the Saitu family head goes on a villainous monologue about how they're basically screwed. Not one to take such treatment lying down, Linzhen rises up once more and slashes through the nearest enemy. Glaring up at the heads, he vows to them, whether now or in the future, the Tang will have their revenge for this day. Rather than scaring the enemy, however, this only emboldens them, and it's revealed in another moment just why. At the Winehead's command, a hostage is brought out and revealed to Linzhen, and sure enough, it's none other than Ru'an's sister, Yor. Infuriated by this development and terrified for Yor's safety, Linzhen can only watch as Wang holds her by the throat and talks about the Tang family's succession. Everyone knows they have two heiresses, one who's trained in the finer aspects of leadership while the other is a seasoned warrior bred for battle. Their goal here is to make sure the day doesn't come when these two can join forces and ruin the rest of them. Not a shred of humanity or compassion in him, Wang slams Yor against a wall and has the soul-devouring bell suck her life out bit by bit. Wang threatens to let it go all the way unless he's told where the other sister is at once. Throughout all of this, Yor can only think about how her sister must be safe right now and hopes she doesn't come back here. Yeah, so about that. At that precise moment, a golden pillar of light shoots down from the sky, blowing away the enemy forces and freeing Yor. As Wang and Siku struggle back to their feet and demand who the hell did that, the legendary sword from Suping embeds itself into the ground. While they rage on, Linzhen sits in awe, amazed at how easily the soul-devouring bell has been destroyed. Before Siku's men can act on his demands, a voice hits their ears, followed by a blade slashing their throats. Ru'an Tang descends to the battlefield, legendary sword in hand. Down below, Yor and Longjiang are equally amazed and overjoyed by her appearance, the latter realizing that she's reached the supreme tier from her flight capability. Despite hearing this, the Saito head writes off Ru'an completely, claiming that supreme tier doesn't mean a thing these days. The word you're looking for is power creep, old-timer. Unfortunately for his subordinates, Sidu orders them to capture Ru'an, intent on executing her. The second they get close, however, Ru'an moves too fast for any of them to even see, decimating the enemy forces and leaving them in pieces. As more of the enemy soldiers pour in, the Winehead is forced to acknowledge how unexpectedly terrifying Ru'an and her weapon are. Meanwhile, the girl in question stands ready to take down more of them and calls out to her uncle that she's leaving Yor's safety to him now that the bell is gone. Determined not to let her down and protect his family, Longjiang does exactly as she's asked and crushes his way through enemies toward Yor. Both sick of their enemies and ready to end them, the strongest of the Tang family prepared to finish this farce. One after the other, Ryu and Tang effortlessly lays waste to the enemy forces, taking down one particularly mouthy individual with ease. Infuriated by the staggering loss of their numbers, the Wang and Saito heads summon forth the personal battle pets. Because that'll totally work. In response, the remaining forces of the Tang clan rally together and run forward with a war cry, determined to protect their young mistress. With a quick move from the fighter at the lead, the Tang forces seem to be in the clear to attack. Unfortunately, this turns out to be a trick, allowing the Minotaur beast to bring its fists crashing down on the Tang clan. Meanwhile, Longjiang commands the aerial forces in an attempt to take out the enemy leaders. This too, however, is met with strong opposition as Sidu's horse beast breathes out a poisonous mist, forcing the Tang back. With everyone else occupied because of the mist, the beasts leap up toward Ru'an, intent on launching a surprise attack to finish her in one go. Luckily for our heroine, Yor calls out their location through her bond with her sister, allowing Ru'an to dodge just in time. With that, the woman dices both beasts to little more than chunks of flesh, giving her enough room to smile down at her sister in thanks. Ah, I spoke too soon. In a moment of horrific ingenuity, the Saito head uses corpse manipulation to puppet the remains of the beasts and capture Ru'an in a bunch of tentacles. Oh no. Oh, please don't go where I think this will. With Ru'an trapped and unable to defend herself, the Winehead prepares to end this battle, leaping towards her with his blade ready to lop her head off. As Ru'an closes her eyes in fear and Yor calls out to her in horror, something amazing happens. Wang's blade is stopped and it's blown apart, shattered into bits mere inches before touching Ru'an. Floating protectively over her form, Skelly has emerged from Ru'an's shadow. Yeah, you're all screwed now. With a single swing of his blade, Skelly wreaks utter havoc upon the battlefield, creating a chasm that goes on for miles in the ground. Situ can do little more than cower away from this force of nature, splayed out on the ground as Skelly's sheer aura envelops all around him. While the events of Ru'an's first true battle unfold, Suping has been quite busy himself. Flying towards his destination aboard Blaziken, he comes across what he can instantly identify as another of the Transcendence Void's fake bodies, consuming biomatter by the second. Furious at the loss of life, Suping charges up his astral power and attacks, only for the Titan to dodge effortlessly and move behind him. Every subsequent effort is utterly futile, to the point that Suping finds himself transported to his store, standing before Anat as she tells him he's powerless against even a weakened Transcendence Void without a law of his own. Just as she tells him this is a chasm that he will never cross, another voice breaks through Suping's mind, and he finds himself waking up from the nightmare still seated on Blaziken's head. Happens to the best of us, man. Nightmares suck. The voice in question is none other than Old Man Zhao, who's called Suping to discuss some important matters. After expressing concern over Suping's health and mental status from overworking himself, Zhu tells him there's a mountain of complaints and doubts piling up in regard to Zhang's bond contract research. However, when Suping offers to come back at once and help, Zhu just tells him not to worry. Between the goodwill and credibility his stores have built up, they can keep going for a good while yet. Not to mention, with the sheer size of the research team working on the project now compared to a little while back, it shouldn't be long before a breakthrough. And when that does happen, the bond contract's ability to give tamers a portion of their beast's growth and power will revolutionize beast taming as a whole. No matter how many skeptics there may be now, the end product of this research will change everything for the better. I don't know, man. You know what they say about the road to hell. Upon hearing Zhou's report, Suping simply smiles in anticipation. With this, the foundation for his ascent to the sky tier is in place, and he just needs to focus on bolstering their forces as much as possible. Then, all equipped with the bond contract, they'll crush Transcendence Void. For now, though, he asks for more info on the distress signal he's heading towards. Zhao informs him it comes from the Yuan family estate. which is the family that produced one of the subcontinent's 3 legendary battle tamers, Yatican. Hearing that name brings Suping back, remembering his encounter with the ornery old man in the past. Though his opinion of the man isn't the best, Suping has to at least respect that he hasn't allied with Transcendence Void. Right as he finishes that thought, Suping spots the massive horde of beasts that is no doubt the cause for the distress signal. Down on the ground, the human forces are doing their best to fight the horde and survive, but things aren't looking good. As their young mistress takes a knee to recover her breath, it appears she's done for, a beast having snuck up on her from behind. So naturally, that's the moment our hero chooses to make, well, his hero entrance. To all the combatants' shock and awe, a golden fist comes down to crush the beast, threatening her. And yet, even more fantastical is the fact that it's followed by a veritable rain of similar fists crashing down from the heavens to smite all the beasts on the battlefield. While most of the beasts flee in terror from Suping's golden shower, oh god, that sounds so wrong, one beast in particular stands its ground, ripping the smaller monsters apart with its bare hands, something which even the Yuan clan's young mistress struggled with. The beast undergoes a transformation, sprouting 4 extra arms. Determined to face Suping all on his own, he moves forward to take on one of the golden fists, and he's immediately crushed by it. So long, cannon fodder. With the entire battlefield cleared out in mere moments, the Yuan family fighters breathe a sigh of relief, and the young mistress prepares to thank whichever senior beast tamer has helped them here. That is until she hears the man's voice and realizes she recognizes it. As soon as she lays eyes on Suping, her demeanor does a 180, infuriated at being saved by this man who's given her so much trouble in the past. Pretty much immediately after Suping asks for her grandfather Yatican's whereabouts, she starts screaming at him and throwing a tantrum about how he stole the Dragon King's inheritance, is insolent, etc., etc. Finally having enough, Suping tells her that her grandpa might be in danger right now, shutting her up. Though she's skeptical about his words since she believes her grandfather to be damn near invincible, Suping's quick to show her display the old man's injuries from their previous face-off. After convincing her that her Gramps isn't a young man anymore, he summons Blaziken to further cement the fact that he can help them. As all of the Yuan clan marvel at the giant dragon, Suping extends a hand to the girl, finally getting her on board. With a final reassurance that he's only here to save people, he gets Yatican's location from his granddaughter, who is eager to save him. Not long after that, the pair arrive at the base city Yatican stayed behind to defend, only to find it in complete shambles after only half a day. Then, out of nowhere, a ridiculous amount of beam attacks crash against Blaziken's side. Despite doing little to no damage, they still rock the ship enough that Suping and the Yuan Harris are concerned. Realizing that the attacks from the rebels below aren't about to let up anytime soon, Suping makes a decision. Of the 3 seals that the old Dragon King placed on Umbreageon's godly evolution, he should be strong enough to handle the unsealing of the first one. Not only is that a step closer to reaching the Sky Tier through the bond contract, but it's also the perfect chance to test Umbreageon's power on them. His mind made up, Suping summons forth his Golden Dragon Hound, freezing the rebels in their tracks, and then, as if they weren't already screwed enough, he raises his fist and announces the breaking of the first seal. With the release of the first seal, Umbreageon now stands proudly before their foes, the strongest he's ever been. Suping himself has to admit that the beast looks more like a true godly dragon than anything he's seen, and wonders how strong he is now. He got that god in him now. Over with the pathetic rebels trying to fight them, the leader claims that Umbreagon's just a lowly mutt and orders his men to blast away. Yeah, he's cooked for sure. As the blasts make contact with Blaziken and Umbreagon, Suping notes that despite Blaziken being strong enough to be unharmed by them, it'd still be pretty annoying, like kids poking you with something. That's why he automatically brought up his energy shield. However, on the other hand, Umbreagon is so powerful at this point that he even eclipses Umbreagon, the blasts feeling like little more than tickles or massage pokes. Youths living the life. Upon seeing the clear superiority of the beast, the rebels try to beat a hasty retreat, infuriating Yatican's granddaughter. Before she can go after them though, Suping holds her back and tells her he was just testing out Umbreagon's defenses so far. Now that he's done, no one's getting away. And so Umbreagon brings down one massive paw and slams it into the earth. Just like that, from the force of a simple stomp, the earth trembles beneath them, the terrain changing entirely in an instant. While the rebels tremble in fear, Suping realizes that Umbreagon's Gaia's protection skill has evolved from being purely defensive to usable on any land, acting as a confinement technique. As one would expect from the scumbags that these guys are, the rebels fall to their knees and let their leader beg Suping for their lives. As the man grovels before Suping, the prodigy asks them if they truly believe in their masters, Transcendence Void's law of the jungle regarding the survival of the fittest. If they do, then shouldn't they be prepared to be devoured by someone stronger than them? Surprisingly enough, the leader actually reveals that these idiots aren't even followers of Transcendence Void, but just a bunch of opportunistic scumbags who care about nothing except getting stronger. The waste they've laid to this city was purely to steal all the energy crystals left behind from Transcendence Void's assault. I mean, there's greed, and then there's whatever this is. To the surprise of Yatican's granddaughter, Suping actually tells the bandits to put down the crystals and stand up, making them think he's accepting their offer to be their master. A mere fraction of a second later, before they can even realize how wrong they are, Umbrageddon has fired a godly dragon's roar, flaying the flesh off their bones faster than they can register their own deaths. Okay, that goes ridiculously hard. Clearly angered by the bandits' actions, Suping gathers up the energy crystals they collected and absorbs them himself without a moment's hesitation. While this does bother Yatican's granddaughter at first, Suping's resolve to eliminate Transcendence Void himself makes her understand his actions. Together, the two head to where her grandfather is supposed to be, hoping they're in time to save him. Unfortunately, when they reach the Yuan family estate, they find it completely destroyed and left in flaming ruins. The girl is devastated and in disbelief, not understanding how her grandfather's defensive formation on the compound could have possibly been overpowered. Suping is on task though, and he tells her there's no point in guessing right now. Instead, they need to head inside and see for themselves what's happened. As they descend towards the estate, Suping calls out for Umbrageddon to follow him while Blaziken and the rest of the Yuan clan stay airborne and scout for any other enemies. Once they've touched down, Suping inspects the estate, only to come to a strange realization. Despite the level of destruction present, not only are there 0 corpses, but also not a drop of spilled blood to be seen anywhere. Between that, Yatican's communicator being off, no traces of any astral power being used, and the general eeriness, Suping wonders out loud if Yatican and his men turn to Transcendence Void's side after sending off the Harris. Yeah, dude, real smooth. You can tell this guy watches red pill content. Naturally, she freaks out, only to then become strangely contemplative. Despite her faith, even she doesn't know what to think at this point. Deciding to pull out a technique taught to her by Yatican, she quickly gets to work and carves a formation into the ground, explaining to Suping that it's a soul-searching formation. With this, she can find anyone as long as she has something that belongs to them. Or at least that's the theory. But when she activates the formation, the massive radar-like formation in the form of a spectral beast is unable to find Yatican despite her best efforts. Upon Suping's questioning, she explains that she doesn't have enough astral power to search a radius of more than 1,000 miles around them, and since she didn't find him, he must be even further than that. Despite his initial surprise, Suping keeps his composure and asks if she can use his astral power to fuel the formation. Unfortunately, only the user of the formation can supply the power needed, which prompts her to give him a list of ingredients longer than he is tall. Her plan? Create an astral power battery which she'll charge for about 3 days and then use up in her formation. Yeah, totally no flaws in that plan. Not at all. Luckily, Suping is quick to point out that between the time to gather all this crap and her charging the battery, they'll be too late to save her grandpa by then. Instead, he calls on Umbrageddon to use his sense of smell, which is enhanced beyond all comprehension thanks to the 100-mile soul search ability and the old Dragon King's inheritance on top of it. After just catching a whiff of Yatican's hairpin, Umbrageddon is able to trace him all the way to a remote snowy mountain away from all civilization. There, Yatican is embroiled in a battle against a beast tide alongside the second legendary tier battle tamer of their subcontinent, Goose Siping. That sounds weirdly similar to our guy. As the two battle the beasts and banter back and forth, Yatican suddenly admits to feeling some sort of intrusion of his defenses, as if something sniffed the back of his neck. Gu is in the middle of laughing at Yatican's words and claiming that it's impossible for anyone in the world to find this mountain when a pillar of golden light crashes down onto the peak from above. As the light dies down, it reveals none other than Suping and Yatican's daughter, riding atop Umbrageddon in dragon form. So much for impossible, I guess. As soon as the newcomers land on the mountain, Yatican's granddaughter takes a knee and pays her respects to Gu. Suping, on the other hand, instantly goes into planning mode, thinking about how beneficial it would be to recruit Gu as well on top of Yatican in the effort against Transcendence Void. Brother, lock in. There's monsters to kill. Yatican, seemingly the only one who's focused on the matter at hand, calls out to the rest of them to help drive back this beast tide and talk later. Linglu, his granddaughter, leaps into the battle without a second thought, drawing her sentient blade. Because that's a thing. I'll be honest, I totally forgot. Meanwhile, Suping is still lost in his own thoughts, wondering just how this mountain is completely off the grid and hidden from all the maps and aerial views that he's seen. Between that, the main peak being sliced clean off and 2 legendary tiers protecting it. Something's definitely fishy about how important this place is. He's not wrong, but lock-in already, man. Just when things seem to be going well for the humans, a giant squid beast, which I can only assume is a kraken, appears, prompting Yatican to launch one of his strongest attacks, Evil Shattering. Linglu is in the middle of glazing her grandpa when the kraken simply bats his attack aside and proceeds to hit him hard enough to draw blood and knock him to the ground. Seeing his comrade's condition, who takes the reins of the battle, all while making a crack at the expense of Yatican's age. Facing the kraken, he addresses Suping and tells him to go ahead and show his skills against this thing. After all, if he could find this mountain in the first place, then he's far from weak. Taking the compliment in stride, Suping leaps at the kraken and instantly pulls out the big guns, grabbing the beast with his Jinwu mystical beast body. Determined to deal a decisive blow right off the bat, Suping punches several of the kraken's tentacles straight off his body. Despite it looking like this is the turning point of the battle, Suping's divine perception allows him to see the kraken making an instant comeback, spraying poisonous mist from its tentacle suckers. Before it can actually attack with any of that mist, however, Gu leaps into action, attacking the overgrown squid with water bullets in each individual sucker. Addressing Suping once more, he thanks the young man for the opportunity and tells him he'll make an opening so the boy can launch a killing blow. Meanwhile, back with the injured Yatican, Linglu finishes off the last of the beasts near him and rushes to speak to her grandpa. Though the conversation that follows isn't the most pleasant at first, Yatican being mad at her for listening to Suping and disobeying him, her words get through to him eventually. She tells him that nothing matters to her more than his safety and seeing her grandpa rising up. It seems like Yatican is going to admonish her yet again, but just as his arm comes down, an attack springs forth from it, saving Linglu from some beasts sneaking up behind her. Realizing that he can't be mad at her, Yatican tells Linglu that they'll discuss this later, but for now, they can just deal with the beasts. Get you, Gramps, I guess. And so, through the joint efforts of Suping, Gu, Yatican, and Linglu, the beast tide is driven back. I guess they beat the kraken off screen. Lame. Okay guys, don't get mad at me for this, I'm just doing my job. You guys might hate me for this, but it's cliffhanger time. We're switching to Ru'an Tang's side of things. Over in NightFire Base City, both the Saitu and Wang heads are desperately fleeing the battlefield, unable to stand up to the might of Skelly. As they're running, the senile old morons start arguing amongst each other over whose fault this whole thing is and how their forces have been devastated. Just as they land on a building still arguing, a sudden strike slices the whole thing clean in half, forcing them on the defensive. As Ru'an Tang catches up, they demand to know why the hell she can't just leave them alone now that she's basically ruined their clans already. Talk about zero self-awareness. With nothing but anger and vitriol in her eyes, Ru'an asks them if they've really forgotten their promise to wipe out her clan just earlier. Without wasting another second, she tosses Suping's legendary blade forward, slicing Wang's right arm clean off. As the vengeful older sister stalks towards him like a predator playing with its prey, Wang desperately tries to flee, begging Sidhu for help. Unfortunately for him, his so-called ally is a two-faced snake and abandons him without a second thought, leaving Ru'an to stomp on his head and crush it like a swollen grape. No, really, look. It's grape juice. Not sure how that works, but the blood from his neck is purple. For some reason. After crushing Wang, Ru'an follows after Sidhu, unaware that the slimy snake is leading her into an ambush with all of his hidden forces. Meanwhile, Ru'an's sister and the others find Wang's body and wonder just how powerful and ruthless Ru'an has grown to become. More importantly, however, they're able to work out that Sidhu is leading her into an ambush and rush to her aid as fast as they can. Over with Ru'an, she listens to Saifu's threats of crushing her quietly, taking it all in without a word. Then, in a surprising move, she turns to Skelly and tells him to hide himself back in her shadow. Seeing his confusion, she explains that this overwhelming situation is a result of her own personal grudge, so she doesn't want him getting hurt because of it. Touched by her concern, unnecessary as it may be, Skelly makes his own choice for the coming battle. Within moments, Ru'an is shocked to find the skeletal mini-beast wrapping itself around her body like some sort of spinal armor. Even stranger to her is that she's suddenly in a blank void, faced with a virtual screen full of techniques. Inside this void, Skelly's avatar frantically points to the square labeled Astral Incarnation Blade, prompting her to click on it. And so out in the physical world, a storm of black and red energy bursts into the sky from where Ru'an was standing a moment ago. As the Sidhu clan finds themselves being pushed back by the sheer wind pressure, the storm suddenly dissipates, revealing the new form of Ru'an Tang. Fused with Skelly for beast possession, her visage is that of a death-bringing Grim Reaper, and a really hot one at that. What, man? You know you were thinking the same thing. In her new form, Ru'an blitzes the Sidu clan's fighters faster than they can even register her movement, resulting in a scene of absolutely terrifying gore and death. Even the sight ahead finally loses his false bravado and moves to flee, absolutely scared crapless by what he's seeing. Unfortunately for him, Ome will mu shindiru. As his mind catches up to his physical state, his last thoughts are, pathetically enough, I can't die like this. When the rest of the Tang clan finally catch up to Ru'an, all they find is a field full of gore, with a pile of mangled corpses at the center and an imposing figure standing atop it. Unaware of Ru'an's new form and unable to sense any trace of her aura over the terrifying power of Skelly, they prepare for yet another gruesome battle. With each step Ru'an takes their way, they grow more and more weary, summoning every battle pet they're still able to. Right as she gets near their formation, though, the fusion with Skelly collapses and Ru'an's own form is revealed. Instantly, the mood of the whole party shifts, all of them overjoyed not only by Ru'an being safe and well, but also by the incredible level of power she's displayed. Seeing as how she performed a beast fusion technique, they're all convinced that she's broken through to the legendary tier, which is a momentous occasion for the whole clan. As everyone celebrates this, Ru'an finds herself overwhelmed and feeling like a complete fraud. Even more so when she realizes Skelly is sinking into her shadow and hiding so he doesn't ruin the mood. She can't help but feel as if she doesn't deserve any of this praise, having only won today because of Su Ping's weapon, Su Ping's beast, and even Su Ping's training. Right as she finds herself sinking into self-doubt, however, Yor envelops her sister in a rib-crushing hug, holding on to Ru'an for dear life. As the sisters embrace, Yor spills her guts about how worried she's been and begs Ru'an not to leave her again. Upon hearing those words, Ru'an feels almost as if she's been transported to their childhood. Hugging her sister back even tighter, Ru'an promises Yor that she'll stay with her from now on. However, before she can do that, there are a lot of important things she needs to take care of, so she'll have to wait just a little longer. Although she can see Yor is confused, she just tells her sister that it's a long story that can be shared later. For now, they need to hurry and claim the Sidu treasury before another clan gets wind of this and comes to lay claim. That sounds like a terrible system. They should probably work on that. Upon stepping into the Sikhu's treasury, full of wealth that's been hoarded for centuries, they're all flabbergasted by the sheer volume of gold. Not only riches, but even stolen items like the Tang clan's missing astral tree are found inside, frustrating Linzhen to no end. However, perhaps the most shocking discovery is what comes next. As a clan member reveals that he's found a door to a hidden chamber, they rush over and open it, only to find two bound men covered in the marks of torture and in complete darkness. Just who the hell are these guys? Upon entering the hidden room and looking further, the situation is revealed to be far more horrific than what they first believed. It's not just those two men, but dozens of men and women, chained up like beasts and maimed in every way known to man. From severed limbs to gouged out eyes, no form of torture has been spared from these poor souls. This is so disturbing, I can't even make a joke about it. Upon hearing them entering the chamber, one of the men crawls forward and starts savagely screaming that he'll haunt Situ even after he dies. However, Linzhen recognizes this man. He is none other than the Grand Elder of the Zhuge family, one of the four great families of the continent. From there, as both sides recognize each other, the Zhuge clansmen rejoice over finally being saved after so long in their brutal captivity. While Yor heals the Elder's wounds, he explains why the Saidu went so far as to keep their clan imprisoned here on the verge of death, yet never allowing them to truly pass. Their clan possesses the secrets of the technique known as spirit-bound soul beast creation. Linzhen instantly recognizes this as a secret method used to create a beast from a tamer's own flesh and blood. Any such beast is indestructible for as long as the tamer remains alive, no matter how much damage it takes. That's ridiculously broken. What the hell? As Yor continues to heal him, the clan elder finds himself enraged at the memory of how Situ ambushed them and caught them off guard with the soul-devouring bell. Not only that, their family head and his son were so ashamed of being tricked by the Saitu that they claimed their own lives, but not before making the others swear not to follow their path. By the time his Zhuge elder is done recounting their tragic tale, the entire clan is ablaze with the flames of righteous fury, ready to raise the Sidu clan to ashes even in their crippled states. When Yor's attempts to calm them down fall flat, Ru'an steps forward and silences them with a sudden slam of Su Ping's legendary blade into the ground before them, her astral power flowing all over them and bringing them to heel. With the Zhuge clansmen calmed down, Ru'an reveals that she has already slain their captors and tells them they're free to go outside and check for themselves. But for now, they must calm themselves and allow the Tang family healers to tend to their injuries. Moved by not only her unknowing vengeance for their clan, but her kindness and generosity now, the Zhuge family swear their allegiance to her and her clan for the rest of their days. Off to the side, both Yor and Linzan are equal parts shocked and amazed by Ru'an's achievement. Later, as both clans make the trek back home, Linzan pulls Ru'an off to the side for a private discussion. After an inconsequential exchange about the purpose of two heiresses being raised for their clan's future, he admits that their ambitions might have been too small. With the power she now possesses, he truly believes Ru'an can lead the Tang family to a level of conquest and greatness they've never seen before. After all, in just one short visit home, she saved their entire clan, crushed two of their greatest rivals, secured the fealty of an even greater clan, and all before even gaining an official title. To this end, he announces that he's passing the mantle of family head to her. Deservingly so, if you ask me. However, Ru'an's next words are ones Linzan never saw coming. As soon as she gets confirmation that she is now family head and has full control of their forces, Ru'an declares that they are to wipe out all remaining rebel factions and bring an end to Transcendence Void's chaos. Confused, Linzan asks why she wants to waste resources on such a campaign when they could use this time as an opportunity to expand their lands. Although she doesn't answer out loud, Ru'an's answer is simple. She wants to do this because it's what he wants. And after all he's given her, as long as this is his wish, she will carry it out unconditionally. Ru'an no longer wishes for anything for herself except one thing: to become Suping's sword. Well, did not see that coming. Sis turned into a total glazer.